First Nation and Native American Reservation Sightings, Part 19. Choctaw Native hears metal beams snapping. In 2005, Choctaw Native Billy Ludlow of Honobia, Oklahoma, became a staunch believer in Bigfoot 54 years earlier at age 11 when he encountered a bipedal creature on the Little River. Ludlow and two playmates were goofing around one Sunday night after church when they heard metal beams snapping on the unfinished bridge above the river. "I looked up and saw this large, hairy animal stand up on two legs like a man," said Ludlow. "I guessed it to be 9 or 10 feet tall at the time, with broad shoulders and hair all over. I was always the slowest runner among my friends, but on that night I was the fastest. We ran to my grandmother's cabin and slammed the door shut. It was chasing us. Something came and pushed the door 2 or 3 times and then went away. I know they are out there." Muncie, Delaware Nation. Chief William Little Soldier, chief of the Muncie, Delaware Indian Nation and resident of Cambridge, Ohio, contacted me with the express desire to report that the hairmen looked much more human than what had been previously reported through Grassman reports, and he was clear they did not have a gorilla shape. The executive director of NABS, David Politis, contacted Little Soldier and acquired his statement by affidavit in December of 2009. In his statement, the chief said, "2 months ago, I was putting out postmarkers on our property when I heard a large branch break. I turned in time to catch a glimpse of a creature walking away on 2 feet with hair over its entire body. It was medium brown in color with thinning hair near its buttocks. The creature ran up an adjacent ridgeline where I lost sight of it. I never did see a frontal perspective, just the rear. I did measure its stride at over 8 feet, and it had 17-inch long feet. We have found 3 different sized Bigfoot tracks on the property adjacent to the tribe. Some were quite small, and others were large. They all looked like a barefoot human track, except they were wider and flatter. Others in our immediate community that have found fecal material that looks similar to giant human scat that nobody can seem to identify. Others have found 3 different sets of footprints in snow that looks like human footprints. I went to a local newspaper to discuss the issue with a reporter, and he claimed that there have been 22 sightings of Bigfoot in the Twin Sisters area. The sightings are of a creature that looks much more human than the Ohio grassman. Bigfoot researcher Don Keating lives approximately 20 miles from me, but I couldn't contact him, and thus the reason I contacted Bigfoot Encounters. I wanted to report that this creature looks much more human than what has been previously reported through the Grassman reports. It doesn't have the gorilla shape. I have had 2 other Bigfoot sightings in California that I would like to report. 1. In June or July of 1973, I was driving a GMC big rig carrying pallets and pipe northbound on Interstate 5, 3 miles south of the Oregon border. It was 1:30 p.m. on a clear and warm day with moderate traffic. 200 feet in front of me, I observed a creature running on 2 feet westbound to eastbound across the highway. It was very dark in color, had hair covering its entire body, and it was very big and muscular, like a very large bodybuilding male. I was able to view the creature for 15 to 20 seconds until it made its way into the forest line. A large number of vehicles pulled to the side of the roadway, and we discussed what we observed. We all agreed that we had just viewed a Bigfoot. 2. In March or April of 1979, I was traveling with my daughter from Red Bluff to Hama Ranch to the coast on Highway 36. It was a clear day when we started, and then it quickly got foggy as we crested the summit and headed onto the coastal side of the highway. It was near 10:30 a.m. as we went around a turn and saw small pine saplings swaying on the side of the road. We then saw a Bigfoot dart into the roadway, approximately 20 feet in front of us. It also had hair over its entire body, was dark in color, and immediately crossed the road to the other side where we lost sight of it. We were just on the northwestern fringe of the Yola Bola Wilderness area when we made this sighting. Two sets of tracks found by Spirit Lake Sioux. This sighting was reported at Fort Totten, North Dakota, not far from Devil's Lake on the Spirit Lake Sioux Nation Reservation. Just before dawn in 1978, I took this one lady back home. She lived in a treed section of town. I dropped her off and she went to her porch. She happened to look over to the side of her house porch, and that's when she saw the Bigfoot like creature, which made her start screaming. She raced back to my car. The woman jumped in and told me what she had just seen. We went with her back to her house with a couple of friends and searched the area. We found footprints. The tracks were barefooted and measured around 13 inches to 16 inches each in length. The woman only got a quick glimpse, but she described the Bigfoot as hairy, very tall, and its hair was brown and medium length. Signed, Silas Ironheart, January 2001. Bigfoot Tracks, Weymouth First Nation, Ontario, June 21st, 2001. Large prints found in a forest on the shores of Hudson Bay indicated that Bigfoot, a large, hairy, man-like creature that has mystified people for decades, is alive and well in northern Ontario near Pewanik. Abraham Hunter, the chief of the Weymouth First Nation in Pewanik, Ontario, some 1,100 miles north of Toronto, said he examined the footprints last week after a member of his community cited them. Each footprint was 14 inches in length and 5 inches wide. Chief Hunter said there were quite a few tracks, more than 20, heading toward the river. The footprints were found by a community member of Pewanik as he was driving a four-wheeler through the Polar Bear Provincial Park, one of Ontario's largest wildlife reserves on the south shore of Hudson Bay. The prints were some 2 yards apart, indicating that the creature had a very large running stride, and they were definitely not those of a bear. A bear would have 4 different footprints, Chief Hunter said. The tracks headed toward the Weymouth River, which flows through Polar Bear Park. The creature left no hair on the shrubs as it passed, but the footprints sank quite deep into the soil, indicating that Bigfoot was big and heavy. It's not just in one area that the footprints were sighted, Chief Hunter said. There's about 3 different areas, one about 3 kilometers or 2 miles away, and another 2 kilometers or 1.25 miles away, and these were not the first sightings. About 20 years ago, there was a sighting about 25 or 20 kilometers, 15 or 12.5 miles downstream. In fact, the creature itself was sighted about 20 years ago, but it was not until next day that people in the area went to the spot and did find footprints 16 inches in length. It looked like a man, was very hairy, according to Chief Hunter. In Toronto, Brett Kelly of the Ontario Natural Resources Ministry said an area supervisor for the ministry and 2 other people visited the spot where the latest footprints were found and took photographs. They are sending the photographs down for us to have a look. Apparently, there have been 16 other sightings in the province of Ontario in different areas, including Algonquin Park, the far west of the province, but mostly in the north. In the latest sighting, I think it's quite heavy because it left quite a deep footprint, but there's no estimation of what the actual size of it is. After the sighting near Pewanik, the ministry staff saw a second set some 150 kilometers, 93 miles east. With regard to indigenous people of North America, there are some tribal traditions that hold them closed-mouthed about their stories of the big people. Other nations are more open and quite willing to discuss Bigfoot with the white men in research. Interestingly, some are not so willing to share even the idea that the big people of the forests exist. According to traditions, that is how it should be. To be continued, and thank you for listening. There will be many parts to the reading of this book. If you like this reading, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to be sure to catch the future parts. We welcome comments, but please be considerate of others. If you have had an experience with or about Bigfoot, cryptids, UFOs, paranormal, or any other strange happenings and would like to share them on our channel to be read, please email them to sharingofstrangestories@gmail.com. Our goal is to establish a channel that can provide an outlet for people to speak freely of their experiences without ridicule from others. There are many of us out there that have had these experiences and have felt that ridicule, but ridicule will not be welcome here. Emails will be read on our channel, so please keep them family friendly. If you want to remain anonymous and do not want your name read to the public, please put that at the beginning of the email or in the subject line. Thanks again for listening and stay safe.